everybody. Welcome to Kenter at Your Own Risk. My name is Kent. Unfortunately, this podcast bears my namesake. I apologize. And I am here with Chris. Say hello to the wonderful people, Chris.
Hello, wonderful people. And the rest of you.
Yeah, I don't even know if I should have pluralized wonderful people, but, unlike our normal podcast where we discuss movies and whatnot, for the next 6 weeks, Chris and I will be discussing Game of Thrones as it wraps up, because we did this for Season 7, and we didn't feel like making a whole new podcast for 6 episodes. That seemed a tad stupid. So this is episode 3. Today is April 19th, 2019, and this was the season 8 premiere. I know we were all excited, Chris. At the end of the day, was this just a feel-good episode, do you think, by and large?
No, I think it was necessary, especially coming after a 15-month hiatus. Yeah, if we had only had like 6 months off, they could have come back right into the action. We could have skipped probably a lot of this, and everybody would have remembered. But coming off over a year, it was nice to have everybody reminded of, hey, this is where everybody's at. This is what we're doing. And I'm glad, basically, all the fucking setup for the rest of the season is done. We have everybody positioned where they're going to be, especially considering looking at the previews for episode 2, it looks like the horde from the north is going to be getting to Winterfell by the end of episode 2, and episode 3 is going to completely be the battle fucking for Winterfell. So
I have not seen the preview yet, and as I just rewatched the episode, on HBO Go, they did not show the preview for this week's episode, so I don't have a whole lot to go on, but I think either way, assumptions could have been made. You could have basically assumed what was going to happen prior to seeing that preview. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much the only shit that I really remember from seeing was it looks like Jaime's going to be on trial from Dany for killing her father, and then they showed Tormund and Beric Dondarrion getting down there, and they're they're already south of the wall. They're fucking right up behind us. And then you actually see some of the whites show up at Winterfell, and it looks like it's going to end with the army stacking up to get ready to fight, kind of shit.
Gotcha. All right, so let's dive into the episode. As I told Chris right before we went on, I took a lot of notes / bullet points, and I don't really have a game plan for this other than just kind of hit up each note, and if it's something worth talking about, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, we'll just keep going, basically. So, obviously, the first scene was a callback to the very first episode with, royalty coming to visit Winterfell and a child trying to see, what's going on. It was a callback to Arya. I don't know. It was cool to see. It was cool to see. I don't know. I liked watching it. It was a good opening scene, didn't you think?
I think they did it. It felt like time had passed between the last season and this season.
Yeah. How much time do you think has passed?
It'd have to have been maybe a couple weeks. But it felt like Jon and Dany were further along in their relationship like they would be if time had passed, rather than, hey, we just fucked yesterday for the first time and now everything's going to be kind of a little awkward as we're riding along and kind of stuff. And obviously some time had to have passed because, Sansa and Arya already knew what, that he had bent the knee, which was, I don't remember if that was something we talked about in our last episode, how they were going to react, but, we kind of missed, how they reacted before he got there and just got how they reacted to him after he got there.
Yeah, You would imagine that there was probably some outburst. Like, I would have loved a montage of just the outburst of loyal North folks to the news of John bending the knee. I think that would have been great.
Although, I mean, just to look at that, I'd like to reference, something a little further on in the episode when we get to it. But I just wanted to be like, he had the fucking perfect answer. I mean, it's once he said what he said, there should have been like no fucking arguments anywhere ever again after that.
I agree. I like the callbacks, and for me, I've been slowly but surely binge watching Game of Thrones. I'm up to season 3, I think about halfway. So I have to say it's fascinating, and not many shows do it as well as this one does. And how all these little seeds and clues were planted, especially just in season 1 and 2, that didn't come to fruition until season 6, 7, or 8. I gotta say, like, even though they didn't have full source material to work with for what's happening right now, they did a hell of a job with it. I just want to commend it.
I mean, you have a lot of people bitching because little shit has been changed over the course, which, you change a little thing in the very first episode. By the time you get to episode 70, it's like the butterfly effect, and it's, no matter what the actual change was, it's magnified because of just how much time has passed. But I think they've done a relatively good job of sticking with most of the main characters, and guiding the ship after, George R. R. Martin kind of started floundering. So.
Yeah, there's always going to be the people that complain, especially the book people versus the visual fucking on-screen people. There's always just going to be that, but by and large, I don't know. I don't have much complaints. I want to say how much I thoroughly enjoyed the Tyrion and Varys conversation about balls. That was what I needed to start the show off. I don't know. It was funny to me.
It was good to see Varys after he was relatively not in a lot of the last season, correct?
Yeah, which is, if you think about almost every season, especially like from season 2 or 3 onward, it almost feels like there was a major character missing throughout most of the season. It's kind of weird.
Oh, I mean, Ned. I mean,
well, yes, Ned is and Lady the dire wolf, of course.
Nymeria. I mean, just I gotcha.
So shortly after that, we got to see Sansa doing what Sansa appears to just be doing all fucking episode with. I don't know, as the new saying, the resting bitch face. Like I thought about actually taking like a shot every time I saw it this episode when I rewatched it, but then I realized I didn't have anything that I wanted to take shots of. Do you think her grumpiness, do you think it's warranted at this point?
Yes and no. I mean, like if you read our blog, like I say, I think she's the only one who's really thinking about the future at this point. Like the actual logistics and the politics of what happens after the White Walkers are defeated. Yeah.
Is there a point in thinking that far ahead, do you think?
Oh, I mean, look at what this whole series has been up to this point. The politics have basically been, what decides, who lives and dies. So, yeah, I mean, and the other thing is that I think people forget because winter just arrived and we haven't really experienced it with them. But the seasons in Westeros last for years and years and years. It could potentially, winter could last for 2 years, winter could last for 80 years. So when she's talking about the food and the fact that, we had enough to last the north through the winter, but now you're bringing all these extra people and we're going to run out, she's basically saying how many people are going to fucking die now because we're not going to be able to grow any more crops until, a matter of years have passed.
Yeah, it's, if nothing else, I thought this episode especially, you could see Littlefinger's influence on her in a lot of ways. Like, she learned a lot from him despite what happened. Like,
she's learned a lot, but the sad thing for her is look at who she's learned from. She's learned from Littlefinger. She's learned from Ramsay. She's learned from Cersei. She's learned from Joffrey.
You just named 4 of my heroes.
I mean, she's even learned from Tyrion. But like she's the only one who's really being practical. But at the same time, I think like a lot of what you've said would have made more sense if she was like, "Hey, Jon, Arya, can we speak alone for a minute, so I can get my frustrations out instead of fucking raising doubts in front of the whole fucking court between you guys and fucking this visiting fucking Targaryen queen who's come in with her dragons."
Isn't it funny, like, a show known specifically for 2 or 3 people to have very close face-to-face conversations, intimate conversations. This is not one of those times that they had it. Like, that's kind of funny.
And I think a lot of that came down to pacing.
Sure.
Because I remember, like, right after it came out, you were like, was this a good episode or was this kind of a filler episode? I would put it on the good end. But at the same time, like you said, it probably could have been a 2-hour episode and just expanded on everything that happened without actually adding anything new, and it still would have been just as good, maybe even better. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, the question, I don't necessarily have a side even. Like, I think it was both. I truly think it was a little bit of both, and yet simultaneously, had they expanded an hour, would I have surely eaten it all up? Of course I would have. So, it was, I don't know, I really liked the episode. But moving on. When, I can't remember who the hell it was talking, but Dany seemed like had a look on her face like she was surprised that the Night King had her dragon. Did you notice that? Like, her reaction by any chance?
Yeah. Well, none of them saw it.
Okay, that was my next question. I couldn't remember if anybody had seen it, and I didn't catch up on my
the penultimate episode, the one where he died.
Yeah.
He got stabbed with a giant ice spear, and he went through the ice. And then she took off with everybody else except for Jon. Jon jumped on the horse to get Jon's uncle showed up and saved him and got him out of there. So, and then the episode ended with the Night King reviving the dragon after all the whites dragged the dude out with the chains from the bottom of the lake.
Gotcha. Okay, that
and then
makes sense.
The last episode was the one where he finally showed up and blew the shit out of the wall. So, they finally found out because the wall went down and the people who were scouting, came back and said, holy shit, the fucking dude has a dragon. And, I think they fucking figured it out from there, but...
I don't know. Don't you think Dany should have just kind of assumed that this motherfucker was going to try that shit at the very least?
I think probably... Yeah, no, probably not. I mean, she had no experience with them prior to Jon, and everything until she had actually seen them with her dragons was just hearsay still.
Even like now that I've gone back and rewatched a lot of stuff, it's interesting that Dany comes off semi-educated, like she's really smart with certain things. Then other things she wasn't, and I know a lot of it has to do with all the crazy shit that went down, but simultaneously it's almost like a convenient truth how, she knows how to speak, Valerian, but she doesn't, like, she knows some things and doesn't know, and it's always like a convenient plot thing. It's script writing. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, like, the Valerian is just because that was the language that their ancestors spoke when they came over and, took over the Seven Kingdoms with their dragons. Not necessarily because, anybody else in the Seven Kingdoms still spoke it. But just like I don't even have anybody like if the royal family in England spoke anything other than English,
Yeah, that would be a treat. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Even though we'll talk about Lord Umber later on, I just want to say I learned that his first name was Ned. I had to look that up online, so I don't know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't he also the kid at the beginning who was running to see the procession?
Shit, I don't know.
I'm pretty sure he was. So they had him running to see the procession, and then Sansa called him out to go grab his peeps, and then you had the scene at the end.
That would make some sense, and it would make so much sense that I did not put that together. All right, one of the first good, I don't know, I want to say powerful scenes, if you will, was Lyanna Mormont giving Jon the business and him giving it right back to her. That was pretty solid, I thought.
Yeah. I, like, once he responded, I'm like, that should fucking shut any fucking opinions down going forward at all.
I would think so. I mean, what he says is right at that moment. Like, it's not an enviable position. That's the thing. Like, I understand that's not an enviable position for anybody at this point. I mean, it just isn't.
She's basically like, hey, what the fuck, dude? We sent you to go fucking treat with her as a fucking king, and you come back, what are you? Are you even a fucking noble anymore? Or are you just a bitch? That's me
pretty much.
That's me paraphrasing a little bit, people. And he's like, yo, I came back with 2 armies and some dragons. Give me some breaks. She's like, whatevs. And he's like, listen, I had a choice. I could either A, do nothing and still be your king, or I could choose to save your fucking asses. He's like, I gave up being a king to fucking save all of you people. Because I love you. And at that point, like, I think any kind of argument she has is fucking just evaporates. Flies away into the wind with the dragons.
There's no comeback to that. If Lyanna Mormont doesn't have a comeback, I don't think there's a comeback. The only person I think that could have had a comeback would have been somebody like Tyrion or Cersei, just because they somehow always had a comeback for everything.
Oh, maybe Bronn.
Bronn. Yeah. Let's see. So, I'm going to just combine this and combine 2 scenes into this, because Tyrion tries to save face for Jon, mentions the Lannister army, and then not too much further, like 2 scenes later, Sansa's kind of doing Sansa things and basically kind of calls Tyrion a fool. I don't know. Is Tyrion a fool? Like, where do you stand on this at the moment?
All right. So there's a whole bunch of shit to get into with that. I like the fact that they go back, even though it really hasn't hit as much in the show as it did in the books, because they just had to shorten the stuff a little bit. I like the fact that Tyrion still, considers Jon a friend enough to fucking come to his defense. And in front of all the Northerners and the fucking queen that he's fucking serving. Sansa doesn't have some information, and Tyrion doesn't have some information, but like Sansa doesn't know that Tyrion isn't basing his response on trusting Cersei. He's basing his response on trusting his brother, who said he would show up and he would come and he would bring the army with him.
Yeah, it was just another scene of giving Sansa like the opportunity to act super bitchy. I felt like, but it was good, and simultaneously, I just want to be like, it also irked me how mean she kind of was, because Tyrion was very kind to her the whole time she was in King's Landing.
Yeah, but I mean to go along with that too, I mean she was forced into fucking marrying him, which was never annulled either.
I mean, he never even tried, having sex with her. I mean, all things considered, marrying Tyrion Lannister at that very moment was probably most definitely like her best case scenario.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it this way: like, if you had been forced to, like, say, marry Russ's mom,
Go on.
and even if you didn't, consummate said marriage, would you still blame Russ partially, no matter how illogical it was, the fact that you were forced to marry his mom?
I'd blame Russ and I'd blame Eric somehow.
Yeah. So I mean,
By the way,
she could have been more bitchy than him, especially after he was like, "Well, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you since my nephew's wedding. When you as my wife ran away and never came back, and I got blamed for fucking killing him."
yeah. Just want to pimp 9deuce.com/blogs. We did a Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU ranking of movies, and it's funny that Sheila contributed to it, and I'd already written stuff making fun of Eric, so I don't know why, but that just felt great to me in some weird way. It was a treat. But.
I was really surprised in that Sheila participated and Eric didn't.
Yeah, Sheila shocked me that she participated. I was like, all right, this is great.
It still feels so weird for me to say Sheila, though, instead of Mrs. Blowers.
Yeah. I spent how many freaking years of my life saying either Mrs. Blowers or Eric's mom. Like, one of those two things.
It's at this point, for me, it's been 33 years. So a long time.
Yeah. All right. Moving back to the show, let's see. You already kind of brought up the whole sense of how we're supposed to feed everybody, including the dragons. There really isn't much for the dragons to eat, is there?
Yeah, whatever they want.
Which was the comeback to the bitchiness, which I didn't like. Normally, I'm not on Danny's side, but I really liked that particular line. I don't know, it was nice. Let's see. Then we had the Jon and Arya reunited by that tree, which I can't remember the name of it.
The Weirwood.
W.
Yep.
Weirwood.
Yep.
Gotcha. And
speaking of that, just to interject for a second.
Go on.
But I've always thought it looks cool. The white wood with the red leaves, but we've never really seen outside of the intro to the show, like an overhead view of it. But when they were doing the approach to Winterfell this time, and they were going with the dragons, instead of at the ground level like you saw when Robert was approaching at the beginning, you got to see overhead, and that fucking wood looked fucking badass with the color scheme and having the one giant tree right in the fucking middle.
Yeah,
really nice piece of cinematography, or I guess whatever the hell you want to call that for TV rather than in a movie.
Yeah, I think we just call it the same damn thing. I don't really see any reason not to, because this has better production qualities than most movies that I've seen. So, yeah, the tree looked really, really solid. I agree with you on that. I think my favorite part about this was when Jon said that Sansa thinks that she's the smartest person, and Arya's like, yeah, she thinks that. It was pretty funny.
I think what Arya actually said was, she is.
Do you think that Arya believes that?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I believe it, but the show's going out of its way to tell us that she is.
The show has been going out of its way for a while to tell us that. I agree. All right, so Cersei, she seemed happy that the dead broke the wall down like Chris Jericho. And, yeah, I mean, should she really be all that happy about this?
She's fucking retarded. No offense. Like, I get that she doesn't want to give up the throne. I get that she thinks she's entitled to whatever she wants. But if the Night King and the Army of the Dead kill all of her enemies, like, does she think her 20,000 dudes minus the elephants that she didn't get are going to be able to fucking roll over this fucking... You know, especially if it's true that they can reanimate, everybody that they kill.
Right. For as educated as she is, and how just this morning I watched a scene with Tywin and Cersei where he basically put her in her place. Like, she thought like she was so freaking smart, and he's like, you're not as smart as you think you are. Tywin was so far, like, he overmatched damn near everybody. I just gotta say that.
He should have just been smarter to, not antagonize his youngest kid.
Pretty much, like, that was, like, he I don't know, Tywin is still one of my favorites. But, hell, I just go, rather than move back and forth here, we're just going to stick with everything that's happening at King's Landing here, because there was only a handful of scenes. We had, Yara and Euron, they had their chat, and Euron said he's going to fuck the queen. Euron came, talked to Cersei, and I think the other guy's name was Harry that was there.
Yeah.
And, like...
Tyrion, Cersei, and Harry.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Cersei was so disappointed about the elephants, and I can't help but feel that's not a throwaway line, because she brought up the elephants later on. What is the significance of the elephants, if there is significance?
They're the only ones who would have been able to fight the Dothraki.
Oh, okay.
Because the Dothraki are the best cavalry. They're lighter, so the knights can't compete because they're too slow. The Dothraki just ride around them and shoot them full of arrows until they die. But imagine, something slightly smaller than the shit that you had in Lord of the Rings. But, that same kind of scale. Like, imagine what would have happened to the Rohan riders if, they didn't have, like, Legolas and Eowyn, all the super dudes that they had. And the people were just running through them, taking them out with the trunks and the barbed wire and that kind of shit.
I'm sure your analogy makes tons of sense, but I will admit I am not a Lord of the Rings fan, and I've only seen the movies once in my life.
Okay. Well, I mean, imagine, like, a modern-day analogy would be, people on horseback riding, running into, like, a group of Humvees with,
Right.
automatic weapons on top of them.
Makes sense. And I think I remember the elephants. Like, there was a Lord of the Rings game that was super fun. It was on, like, last gen system. I can't remember how.
It was on, like, Xbox and PS2.
Yeah, super fun. I really really enjoyed that game, actually. I don't know. Anyway, I loved how as cocky as Euron is, he is terrified of the mountain. And then we saw later on Euron fucked the queen as he wanted, and she brought up the elephants again. And the other thing from that whole thing was, Bronn. How many times in this series has Bronn either got really close to nailing a chick or nailing a chick and gets interrupted? I want to say it was like 5 or 6 times in this series.
It's been a lot. I will say that out of, like, the only thing that really surprised me out of this entire episode, like, surprise, was the shit with Bronn. Like, I did not see that coming.
As far as him being, like, hired to
kill Jaime and Tyrion. And, like, what's he gonna do?
Oddly enough, I was still surprised that he was still in King's Landing. It made sense once I thought about it, but at first I was like, I don't know. I was just a little surprised that he hadn't taken off, but it really doesn't make sense for him to have taken off. I don't know. Just how we know Bronn, we just kind of come to expect he's hanging out with the quote-unquote good guys at this point in the game. But, yeah, he's a man for hire, and that fucking crossbow. That, I don't know, that crossbow is awesome, and how many times has it really been used now? I mean, it was used to kill Tywin. It was used when Joffrey was trying to impress Marge. Has it been used other times?
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right. Well, how do you think that? I mean, is Bronn really going to try to take out Jaime or Tyrion, or does he just have a cool crossbow now to keep?
I see. That's why I was saying a surprise. I honestly don't know where that storyline is going to end up.
I would feel that at this point, Bronn has been. I mean, Bronn never got. Well, he did get the land, didn't he? At one point,
he got the land, and then I don't remember if they took it away. I know they talked him out of. He didn't get all the shit that he was promised anytime. He's been basically dicked over for all the help that he gave Jaime and Tyrion, but at the same time, I feel like they're the only two that like he might actually be semi-friendly with.
Right.
I mean, I guess it would all boil down to like if he goes down to the dungeons and see that like the sand snake that he wanted to mac with is hanging out down there, and her corpse is there that Cersei's been fucking using to torture her mom with. I don't know. Maybe that would cause him to go to the good side of good, but as it is, she actually gave him money, delivered on a promise before they actually made him do something, so.
I don't know. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Bronn dies trying to kill Cersei with that crossbow.
We'll see.
I don't know. That's my random guess because, I don't know, I have faith in Bronn and his singing abilities. And the fact that he constantly has prostitutes in a lot of his scenes, and goddamn that fucking line with Qyburn, poor girl, the pox will take her within the year, and Bronn's like, which girl? Such a good line. Shit. Do you think? I mean, we're not gonna have time to find out if Euron put a baby in Cersei's belly. Do you think?
No, because she's either already got one or she doesn't. She thinks she has one. I mean, I'm guarantee that whether or not she actually does, she thinks she has one, especially with the way that she was reacting to him. Yeah, I like that scene a lot, especially because like after last season we were talking about just like how much shit Euron talks to just fucking everyone. Just he's an enjoyable character, but so was I better? Was I better than? She's like, well, you're not boring.
He's such a cocky prick, but he needs that affirmation about it as well. And I feel like everybody knows a dude like that, though, right? Like,
oh yeah.
We all know that dude. He's actually probably one of the single most relatable characters in the fact... I don't know many people like a Jon Snow, for instance. I know people like a Tyrion, for example, perhaps, but Euron, he's definitely a caricature of people that still exist today, no doubt.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we moved on. We had Theon and some of his posse rescue Yara. She headbutts him, then they embrace, and Yara made the point that at some point, she's going to go take back the Iron Isles, and then it makes a good fallback option, if you will, for the group, and Theon's going to go north. So, based on that conversation, by the end of this season, by the end of this, they are going to fall back to the Iron Isles, then. Would you not agree?
No, I don't think so.
No?
No. I think it's a way just to start trimming characters.
So, probably the end of what we'll ever see from Yara, you think?
Maybe. I mean, maybe not. But at the same time, if we're going to only have 5 episodes left, and we're going to be focusing basically on Winterfell and King's Landing as basically shown by the new introduction to the show. I don't think there's too many times for, secondary jaunts off into, areas that we're not going to be, the main story focus.
I think we'll see her in the finale, possibly attending some wedding between two characters that, unite the kingdoms, blah, 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 blah.
Potentially. I mean, I could see, if they're alive, or if she's alive, maybe Dany going back overseas, especially, if like Jon dies, she still has her boy toy, boss of the mercenary company back in the Marine that she could go hook up with.
That dude's awesome. Can't think of his name, but that dude's awesome.
Dario Naharis.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so probably one of my 5 favorite scenes was this next scene ahead. 3 great characters in Davos, Varys and Tyrion, talking about how Dany needs to earn the trust, and Varys strongly hints that nothing lasts, and I felt it was definitely a reference to Jon and Dany. Does Varys know something more than he's leaning on, you think?
I think he knows less than he probably does than he should know. It's like
that wasn't confusing at all, Chris.
Oh, what I'm saying is, like, if anybody in the Seven Kingdoms outside of Bran and Sam should know that Jon is, a Targaryen, it would be, the one dude who's fucking been campaigning to bring the Targaryens back to the fucking Seven Kingdoms to take over since they got deposed. Especially considering that he's got spies fucking everywhere, so... But no, I don't think he has any special insight. I think he's just being, realistic in regards to relationships, and, they're in love with each other now, but like what Sansa was thinking about, what happens after the White Walkers are done, what happens after Cersei's done, and now you have, if they don't unify the North and her forces, you have the two basically sides left. Are they going to still be allied when, all the people in the North are clamoring to be their own kingdom, and all of her people are, clamoring for spoils of war and all that shit that the Dothraki would normally be expecting?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions going on there, because if a quote-unquote good guy wins the throne by the end, are they going to try to unite the kingdoms? Are they going to just try to let everybody kind of have equal say? It's most likely they're just going to want to rule, because, that's been the whole purpose of the fucking show. But...
if you think about, like, the Seven Kingdoms, though, they were, the Riverlands don't have a ruler anymore because they're all fucking dead. The Stormlands don't have a ruler anymore because the Baratheons are all dead. The Tyrells are dead. The Dornish people, I forgot what their last name was, they're all dead. So, that leaves what? The Lannisters, the Starks, and I don't even remember what the hell the last king... Oh, the Iron Islands. As the only 3 kingdoms that still have a ruler. That isn't... So,
Well, Gendry still exists, so he could rule for the Baratheons.
But nobody knows it.
True.
And even if they did, it would just be like a civil war all over again, because now you have a bastard, who was never acknowledged, coming to claim it, And unlike Jon, Gendry hasn't gone out of his way to be a hero to, like, the entire North.
Gendry just seems like a dude that just wants to do his job, go home, bang his wife, and eat dinner, and then rinse and repeat. Like, I feel like that's all Gendry really wants out of life.
Which is probably, too, what, like, the Seven Kingdoms needs, somebody who actually would care about, like, the common people.
Yeah. Look at how the common people reacted to Marge when her and Joffrey were first,
Oh yeah.
acquainting themselves, I guess. So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Alright, let's move on to my least favorite fucking scene of the episode. Dany whining, I am the queen, and she can't respect me, blah, blah, blah. Then they get on a dragon, and I'm pretty sure I heard a whole new world while they were fucking flying. I'll just start off with a very basic question that I'm sure is very obvious, but the dragon wouldn't have let Jon ride it if he wasn't a Targaryen. Is that correct?
No idea. I mean,
God damn it.
Well, no, I mean, that's been speculation for fucking, 15, 20 years now. But, because we've never really been in a situation, we're not at this point in the books yet, so we don't know. We can't look to something outside other than this one episode to say yes or no.
In the past, I mean, because I'm sure in the books they, at least, I know they acknowledge some of the past wars and stuff. From your recollection, does it sound like anybody that rode dragons were Targaryens?
Yeah, oh yeah. Everybody who rode dragons in the past were Targaryens.
Okay, so, I mean, it would seem reasonable that...
Well, I mean, at the same time, like, if you had 3 dragons, and that was what was making sure that everybody in the kingdom obeyed you, would you be like, hey, Chris, buddy, here's one of the 3 things that is making sure that nobody can fucking fight me, nobody has any kind of force that can claim. Why don't you go ride him around, come back, bring him back Tuesday, we'll be good. Or are you going to be like, oh shit, if I give this guy, 1/3 of my entire power base, is he going to be the kind of person who's going to, back me up, or is he going to stab me in the back as soon as he gets, and looking at the way most of this world that we're talking about goes, I'm sure like anybody who got it would be like, oh, now I am the king, kind of shit. So.
I mean, that's pretty much... that sums up the past 7 seasons right there. Anytime opportunity has been presented, try to take over, live or die, and rinse repeat. God damn it. What did this scene do anything for you whatsoever?
It really made me feel that... It gave me a couple things. It's showing that Dany isn't stupid. Like, how many people has Sansa given the bitch face to that just haven't even fucking realized what Sansa's been fucking doing with the bitch face?
True.
So, like, Dany's really the only one who's acknowledged that, hey, I understand what she's fucking thinking while she's fucking looking at me like that. So, that puts her, like, ahead of Cersei, ahead of a lot of people in the show. It showed that it wasn't like a one-sided relationship, that like she's as into Jon as Jon is into her.
I would agree with that.
It might have given us kind of a hint of what's going to be going on, at least in regards to when she was like, why don't we just stay here, and spend 1,000 years in the under the waterfall with just the 2 of us.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a part of me that said that they're going to end up back there. Like, at some point, that's not the last time we're going to see that waterfall.
Either that, or it was just saying, that there's a chance, maybe not a huge chance, but, like maybe like a 1% chance that if the 2 of them live, maybe just being together would be enough and they wouldn't have to be king and queen.
Yeah, I could see that. Makes sense.
But at the same time, there's a lot. It almost feels sometimes like episodes have different scenes written by different writers rather than, like they credit it all being written to one person.
I 100% agree with that. That definitely seemed like they needed a woman's touch, if you will. I mean, even if it wasn't a woman that wrote it, it was very different compared to pretty much every scene in this episode in a lot of ways.
And then just lastly, dragons are badass. And if they've got the budget to fuck around with dragons every single episode, if they can't give us a war, at least they'll give us, a scene Which was pretty funny in the end when John's like, after he gets down, he's like, well, you've now ruined horses for the rest of my life for me. So
That was a really good line. It was. That was. All right. Moving on. Probably my second favorite scene of the episode. We got my boy Gendry. We got Arya. We got the Hound. Gendry made that awesome. I don't know if it's an axe, battle axe, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
And I don't know. I got the feeling that Hound was like proud of Arya for still being alive. I don't know, like that kind of acknowledgement. I don't know. That's what
the problem. The problem with him is basically he's a fucking domestic violence victim. He's a domestic violence victim who grew into being a big hulking fucking I'm gonna fuck anybody who tries to ever hurt me again kind of shit. So I don't doubt in my mind at 100% at all. There's that, like, he didn't care about Sansa, and he didn't care about Arya, but he had no way to fucking show it. He was. So if nothing else, I think that was supposed to be kind of what, like, that whole. I hung out with these dudes after they nursed me back to life, and then they were killed by a bunch of douchebags, which caused me to go all wood chopper on their ass. So yeah, I mean, it was pretty obvious that, to me at least, that he cared about Arya when they were traveling together, but at the same time, he was trying to, like, toughen her up to the point that she couldn't be hurt, like he had been hurt by his brother, all the time that his brother beat the shit out of him, burned his face off, fucking humiliated him when he was growing up, kind of shit. So I think he was really happy to see that he's alive, but again, because of who he is, he doesn't know how to express that happiness without being grumpy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most of the show he's had relatively good intentions most of the time. Like, if somebody's going to step to him, he's going to fuck him up. It don't matter. But he's never... he's a broken dude, so, like, he doesn't necessarily know the proper way at all times to do stuff, but... Yeah,
I mean, like, the whole reason Arya hated him at the beginning was because he was the one who,
killed Micah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean... And he didn't do it because he's like, hey, I want to go out and kill your fucking friend. He did it because he was fucking ordered to by Robert in order to make Joffrey happy.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Hound has long been one of my favorites, and he never stops being one of my favorites. I guess, like, everything he does, like, I usually can fully get behind. Now, I've seen this twice now, and I'm still not sure. What the fuck kind of weapon does Arya want Gendry to make for? What is that?
I have no fucking clue. I really don't. I don't know where that fucking picture came from. I don't know what she's asking him. I'm assuming...
Chris, I have questions. You're supposed to have answers. Come on.
I'm assuming that whatever it is going to be dragon glass so she can kill White Walkers, because it's not like they have a whole shit ton of Valyrian steel just fucking floating around or whatever. But I didn't get a chance to rewatch the episode because I worked every day from before the episode was on until tonight. So I only got the chance to watch it once. So I didn't see... It looked to me like it was maybe longish, kind of like a spear, maybe, potentially. I don't know.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. At first, I was wondering if she was going to have Gendry, like, apply something to the tip of needle. Like, that's what made sense to me, but this seems like a whole other thing, and I'm super curious about what it is, what it'll be or whatever. And yeah, that, I don't know. I love all three of them. I will say this. I don't know if you've seen Maisie Williams' hair as of late, but my
pink.
God, it looks that looks silly. Like, it's not the color, it's the style.
I love her fucking personality.
She seems super fun. Yeah.
Some reporter was asking her, hey, what's going on with fucking New Mutants? She's like, fuck me if I know.
That's funny. Yeah.
And I like the fact that this was like one of the first times we've seen Arya flirt with somebody.
Yeah, yeah. There is. I mean, I was going to get to this at some point, but realistically, I am not one to sit there and go, God, I just hope these two people get into a relationship. But if Gendry and Arya hook up, I am so on board with that. Like, that would really be one of the few relationships I would be like, yeah, let's do this.
Did you ever see Kick-Ass 2?
I don't think so. I think I've only seen the first one.
Okay, well, Hit Girl is basically still training him to fight at the beginning of Kick-Ass 2, and because the movie took a little longer to make than the show did, in the comic book, she was still a little girl, but in the show she'd starting to grow up, so like they had her be attracted to Dave. Well, and she doesn't even realize it at first, but like there's a scene where he's changing in front of her after he's had the shit kicked out of him. And like she sees like the muscles on him, and all of a sudden she starts getting like queasy in her stomach. I could see like a scene like that with Arya, like where like she's not even realizing that she's attracted to Gendry, and then he takes his shirt off, after working in the forge for a hard day, and he's like scrubbing down in the water barrel, and she's just like, "Ooh, what's this?"
Oh yeah, he's jacked. He's gonna be all sweaty. Oh yeah, that's a scene that needs to happen. I'm on board with it. Moving on, I liked, they had the whole thing with Lord Glover. He won't come because of Jon bending the knee, and I love that Jon tells Sansa that titles don't matter if they can't win the battle. I don't know. I like that, and I like the response of, did you bend the knee to save the North or because you love her? I liked everything about that scene. I thought it was a really good scene. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, they both have points. Like, a lot of the forward thinking goes into here. Like, Jon is he's literally thinking, I'm the only one who's fucking basically worried about the fucking human race surviving. Nobody else is fucking focusing on this shit. So, basically what we have is fucking, this is New Year's Eve of Y2K, and if we don't fucking get our coding in gear, the world's fucking over as we know it. And Sansa's really one of the only ones who's thinking aloud, but yeah, if we win, what fucking happens New Year's Day, when all these businesses fucking open up again? So, it's, she's seen, her dad, get fucked over because he was in love with his mom and listened to fucking all the bad advice that Kate gave everybody. She saw what happened when Jon, broke his promise, or not Jon, Rob broke his promise to marry the woman that he was supposed to marry for love, and you saw what happened there. I mean, one of the best episodes of TV. So, I mean, and, I would say she probably also has a pretty negative connotation of love based upon, all the people who she's been fucking married to.
I gotta just say that I'm not quite at the Red Wedding yet, but the Red Wedding was such a satisfying episode for me, and I'm guessing for a lot of people. I don't know. For me, it was satisfying in the fact that for over a season, I'd been sitting there hating on Rob and Catelyn, and I could not have been happier when they got theirs. Two of the most unlikable characters in the whole show got, and like right now, like I said, I'm at like episode 5 of season 3, so it's only a few more episodes to go before I get to smile a little brighter. I'm super excited to rewatch it again.
Yeah, I didn't dislike Rob. I think most of Rob's problems were he was too much like his dad.
Yeah, they tried conveying that, but there was a lot of times Rob kept getting pulled in too many damn directions, and he made bad decisions.
I mean, the other thing that they don't really reinforce because it would make parts of the show creepy, or the fact that when the show started, Rob and Jon are only supposed to be 14.
Oh.
So, I mean, picture like a 14 or a 15-year-old sitting in that situation instead of a dude who looks like he's fucking adult.
That would be a game changer.
Yeah, and then thinking with his dicks makes much more sense.
Yeah. It does. It does. It was... The story itself made sense, even though, like, you're sitting there going, well, you're gonna get fucked over for fucking over Frey, which... I liked Walder Frey. He was a creepy dude. Like, that's the horror movie fan in me saying that I like a character. Like, he wasn't a good guy by no means, but he was entertaining as hell to me. And you just knew, like, at some point, well, I mean, you knew because you read the books, but as a fan just watching the show, I was like, I can't wait till he gets to do something back.
You know, in the books, he still hasn't got anything back. But
Oh.
I remember when the Red Wedding episode came up, I was just sitting there staring at my wife instead of looking at the screen because I wanted to see what her reaction was going to be when it actually fucking happened.
Makes sense.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah. Let's see. All right. I don't really have anything more to go on with that particular scene. Well, I got a couple more scenes left. We got pretty, I don't know, powerful scene. Dany and Jorah meet up with Sam, and Dany reveals that she executed his father and brother, and Sam, like, I mean, I don't know the dude's name, but whoever plays Sam did a hell of a job in this, and
is it John Bradley? Is that
I think that's correct.
Yeah, he did a really good job with that.
Because it's conflicting. He didn't. I mean, his father was always a dick to him. His brother wasn't a dick, though, was he?
No. Well, I mean, and that was like one of the super good thing. You know, the good job that he did. You know, he showed that he was still sad that his dad died. You know, but he's like, well, okay, at least I'll see it. And then there was an actual different change within seconds to show a different reaction when he finds out that his brother's dead. So.
Yeah, I don't know. He did a really, really, really good job with that, and Jorah also did a really good job. Like, I don't even know if he said more than 10 words in that whole scene, but like, it was a lot of attention to him.
The whole like, hey, let me introduce you to my. Oh fuck me. Why am I? Can I get out? Can I get?
Yeah,
you go over to somebody's house party and the people get into a fight. You know, the family, and you're like, all right, I'm just gonna pretend I didn't see any of this.
He was excellent in that. I mean, Dany was fine too, but I mean, I thought Jorah and especially Sam just stole that scene big time. After that, Bran gives the order to Sam to reveal to Jon who he is, and this was the biggest scene of the episode for a multitude of reasons, because Jon's hit from many different emotional directions about, what he knew about, everything Ned had told him, to finding out the truth, to now know, like, where does his allegiances lie, all that shit. So, give me what you got on this whole fucking thing.
I don't know, I think, like, again, it was another good job by Sam, because, like, here, you could see that, like, he's telling him not just to tell Jon, who he is, but he's also like, fuck your fucking girlfriend. I mean? And that, I'm pretty sure that came through. And like a lot of people, like I've read a lot of reactions and seen a lot of reactions online, people are laughing because, he's like, yo, dude, you've been fucking your aunt, and instead of being like, oh shit, fucking incest, Jon's first thing is like, I don't want to be king.
It's true. Like, it's fucking true, and it's hilarious that was not the first concern, and that's how you know, times were different back then.
I don't want to be king. But I think Sam has basically the other best line of the episode. After Jon's in the hall with Lyanna Mormont, and he's like, dude, again, this is me paraphrasing, you gave up your kingship to protect all of your people. He's like, would Dany give up her queenship to do the same thing?
was a great line, and I think that's the line that's going to get Jon thinking about, as if Jon didn't have enough shit to think about. Now he's got this on his plate, and it's a reasonable question. I don't know. I don't know
All right,
the answer.
I guess here's my question for you, Kent.
Sure.
Do you see any way that them telling Jon before the battle doesn't fuck things up?
No,
Because,
that's a total...
because of who Jon is. Mr. I always have to tell the truth. When Cersei asks, am I gonna fucking lie? Or am I gonna, nope, I bent the knee.
No, Jon's going to be sitting here with that, and I mean, I'm really curious how long before he reveals it to anybody else. Like, is he going to reveal it before this war really, really happens? Is he going to flex his nuts at all? I'm very curious, but yeah, it's going to fuck a lot of things up because there's going to be some distrust. And honestly, all right, so I had 5 questions here at the end, and I may as well just get to one of them. Do you think that at any point Dany will feel that Sam was getting vengeance on her by telling Jon who he was? Like, do you think that was in Dany's mind? She'll think that.
I mean, that would have to be with Jon going, oh hey, well yeah, I found out that we can't fuck anymore because you're my aunt because my buddy Sam told me. The one you just told him he executed his dad and his brother.
I could see that scene playing out, though.
No, I mean I could too, but I don't think I don't think it'll come back to him. Especially because he can just be like, well, Bran was the one who told me. Bran, the super magic man who fucking sits out in the same spot in the courtyard for like 14 hours at a time.
He looks so damn comfortable, though.
He's got a lot of furs.
And
it's probably really hard to wheel the wheelchair up and down too without Hodor. So,
if I'm not mistaken, he's supposedly not even Bran anymore. He's just the 3-eyed raven. Am I right in saying that?
Well, I mean, I would say I think he's still Bran, but he's Bran. Instead of being like thinking of himself as like Brandon Stark, he thinks of himself as Bran, Mr. 3-eyed Raven.
Makes sense. Gosh, I mean, there's a lot to. Basically, this scene was the scene that gave us the most meat to work with moving forward. Like the most to speculate upon, I would say. And obviously, I'm not going to be so stupid as to be like, whoa, who do you think's going to fucking sit on the Iron Throne if there is one at the end of it? But this definitely will cause
I have a new bet.
Something. Ooh, new bet. Okay.
The others are going to kill everybody, and the Night King is going to be... No, I'm just kidding. The Night King's going to be sitting on the Iron Throne at the end of the show, and everybody's going to be zombies. And then 2,000 years later, The Walking Dead happens. So,
damn.
I'm just kidding. It's not going to happen like that. At least I don't think anybody would be happy if it ended that way.
Fair enough. I don't know. Now you got me thinking a lot now.
That's like the super bleak we killed fucking the entire world ending.
True. All right. So, I mean, before we wrap this up, we may go back a little bit to that, but let's move forward. We only got 2 more scenes left. We got this scene with Tormund. Is his name Dondarrion?
Beric. Yeah, Dondarrion's his last name.
Okay, Beric Dondarrion. They're at the Umber house or whatever, right?
Yep.
All right. And first of all, there's that funny scene where, they hear stuff and then it ends up being Ed and his crew, and like I admit I completely laughed out loud when there was the line about Tormund having blue eyes. I thought that was really funny. And then we get the Ned Umber on the wall with the spiral imaging of body parts. And then there was the scream and all that stuff. And I'm telling you right now, I will argue this that scene was such an homage to The Thing.
Oh. Yes and no. I mean, I don't ever, like, was there a particular scene in The Thing you think of where, like, there were body parts stuck to the wall?
No, it was all about the scream, then the fire. Like, the
Okay.
scream was very, very much like The Thing at least 1 or 2 points. That it just, to me, that seemed like a quick homage to The Thing.
Like, see, to me, it wraps around to the very beginning of the very first episode, which is, I think, what sold a lot of people on this whole series. You know, the very first time you see the others, you know, when the Wildling family gets fucking killed right at the beginning, and then it goes, what, 11 episodes before you see another fucking zombie?
Yeah, it does go a long time. You're right.
You know, and, you know, so instead of starting there with the episode, you know, they started, you know, with the scene after with the Ned Umber running to, you know, mimic the Arya and Bran shit at the beginning of season 1, but then they circled back to hit the zombies up, you know, with this part. And they did a good job making it fucking creepy. You know, I've heard a lot of people speculating, well, obviously this means that Night King has more of a plan than just kill everybody. Well, I mean, I don't think, like, why would he just want to kill everybody just to kill everybody? Obviously, he's had a plan all along for some kind of, you know, whether it's vengeance or, you know, whatever, what have you.
Yeah, he's been waiting patiently, it seemed to me.
Yep.
Now, this is probably a dumb question, but I don't really remember the answer. What are the symbols supposed to represent? Is something to do with the forest, the children of the forest, or something? Or, like, I don't quite remember.
Like, are you talking about with the body parts?
Yeah.
I have no fucking clue, dude. I don't know if that was supposed to represent anything, or if it was just fucking creepy, or if they were like, we're gonna make them zombie Nazis, but not quite Nazis, because we're gonna give them a couple extra arms to their swastika.
That makes some sense. Fair enough. Obviously, we know, well, you know from the preview, and now I do, that these guys managed to, or at least most of the big name guys, make it back to Winterfell in time, so I guess that's somewhat of a foregone conclusion. And then we'll wrap this up with, I thought it was like the perfect way to wrap up the episode. Jaime and Bran staring him down. That was pretty fucking solid.
You know, before we got to that point, I was like, oh, there's a couple spots in this episode that have been really, really good. You know, like, I could call them like the highlight scene. And then we got to this fucking spot. Especially because, like, you get the foreshadowing right before John goes to tell Sam, or Sam goes to tell John. And then you kind of forget around, you know, Bran says he's waiting for a friend. And then,
yeah, I completely had forgotten about that.
And then Jaime shows up and you're like, holy shit, that's what he was fucking talking about. And, you know what was funny is, like, right before that scene, I'm like, we saw the dude around, I'm like, that's gotta be Jaime. I'm like, he's the only person who hasn't fucking shown up in this episode. Which wasn't true, but I'll get to that when we go into the wrap-up kind of shit.
Yeah, I mean, he was the last big character that you anticipate seeing this episode, I would say. Like, I felt that Jaime needed to be in this episode based on how they ended last season. So I really liked it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Jaime hasn't seen Bran since pushing him out the window. Is that correct?
That is exactly true. So you've like, basically, this was a great episode of bringing everything from the first season full circle to where everybody is now.
It's funny, like, I know this isn't the right show to compare it to, but I mean, a lot of shit this season on Walking Dead was a callback to stuff, and now, I mean, we've seen with this particular episode, this was such a callback to season 1, especially the original first episode, and I like it. I like it. It's kind of like this cool fan service, but still moving the story forward. I liked it in that regard.
Yeah.
Before I forget, I do want to say The preview for that Chernobyl miniseries looks awesome, and there's a building with the number 92 in the preview, so it gets my full approval. Just throwing that out there.
Gotcha. I did not see that, so I have no idea what you...
So we wrapped up the episode. I don't know if you have questions or whatever. I had a few stupid questions that are pretty much not going to get us anywhere, but yeah, that's what I got. So you got anything?
Oh, there's a couple of things to touch up on. Like I like the fact that a couple of things we skipped were like we got some catch up time with John with his other siblings that he hadn't seen yet. You know, John and Bran, even though it's still relatively short, and John and Arya. You know, especially because John and Arya were the two closest to each other. You know, for being the outsiders, growing up. You know, and like. I like the scene where, you know, he's like, you still have got it. And, you know, he's like, you kill anybody? She's like, yeah. And then he's like, okay, here, I'll show you mine. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he's too heavy, but...
Yeah, she's like, she basically was like, you know, I could kill people with that, but no, this is so much more effective for me.
Yeah.
In theory, John could, I mean, this is all in theory, John could now marry Arya and rule. Because they're not brother and sister.
All right, yeah, you just took it to like a creepy place.
Yeah, I took it to a creepy place, but how many people would be upset by that?
Maybe Sansa.
That's okay. Because he could technically marry her.
Maybe Dany. I don't know. I mean, you know, let's... I don't see that happening because I see them keeping the incest to the Targaryens. Because even if he isn't their brother, he's still a Stark as well. So,
I know. I mean, great. No, don't get me wrong. I want Gendry and Arya. I was just saying, in theory, that could happen.
I liked too when Sam was talking to John towards the end, and like John was like, "What do you mean, Ned Stark?" And Sam was like, "Listen, he wasn't being dishonorable. He fucking, you know, loved you enough to make, you know, shame himself and keep you alive. So." Robert would never fucking come and kill you, like he would have if he'd known whose child you actually were.
Yeah, that reminded me of a scene I just seen this morning, where Catelyn was talking to Rob's woman, and she said that John had come down with pox or whatever, and she prayed to the seven gods that she would take care of this kid, and then she kind of lied about it, and she felt responsible for everything that's gone on. And when, you know, I don't know, that kind of reminded me a little bit of the conversation that those two had, because Ned did do everything he could, or, I mean, within reason at the very fucking least, and Catelyn was, I don't know, polar opposite in that regard.
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it should have been too much of a stress for Ned to be like, yo, honey, you know, pretend you hate me in public still, but, you know, I didn't fuck around on you. This is my sister's kid.
Yeah, I mean, that was something I had long wondered is...
I mean, imagine being so paranoid about something that, like, you don't share it with your wife. Or, you know, I can understand being like, okay, we can't, you know... Not telling the kid when he's a kid, because, you know, if he gets fucking angry, you know, or... gets his ass kicked for being an outsider, you know. Oh, I'm gonna go, you know, I'm the rightful king kind of shit. But, you know, your wife, especially when your marriage is gonna be fucking miserable for the rest of your life after that shit.
You look at it this way. I mean, you know, under normal circumstances, you would most likely tell your spouse, but this was a time of arranged marriages, and if you didn't tell your spouse, you'd probably tell your best friend, except you can't quite tell your best friend because fucking Robert Baratheon, who you couldn't have that reasonable conversation with. So Ned was really, like, pigeonholed with that secret. I don't really know if there was anybody he could have told, really.
Yeah.
That was a tough one. Anything else?
I'm trying to think of what else. I just realized when I got to the end and I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, you know what? The only really major character that we haven't seen is Brienne.
Yeah, I was looking for her in that opening scene. Where did we last see her? Do you remember?
When she and Arya got into the fight in the courtyard, and like Arya, like tapped her a couple times with needle, and then she kicked Arya in the chest and knocked her across the courtyard.
Yeah, okay, I remember that now. Huh, so yeah, she wasn't on screen at the very least. Interesting.
But
Alright.
I don't remember everywhere we left off. I know there were like questions and shit that we had for what the season was going to do, but I know at least 2 of them got answered right away. And that first episode, John found out that he, technically should be the king, and Tormund and Beric didn't die, even though they were on the wall when it got blown up by the dragon and the Night King. So, those were the 2 questions from just the first episode that got answered right away. So I was glad we got at least closure on those 2.
Yeah. I really meant to revisit. I was actually going to listen to the last podcast we did about this, and then, I have excuses. They're all lazy, though. So, maybe at some point this week, at the very least, I'll check out the blog again, just because I'm curious what else we had in mind, and see if there's any points or any questions that still need to be asked. That, I mean, there are questions. I know there are.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember them.
Yeah, I can't remember what the fuck I did yesterday. So, I mean, not necessarily. Well, about a year and a half ago, would you say?
Yeah, about. Yeah.
So, I do have a couple of questions for you that are most likely irrelevant, but I like asking them anyway. So, I have 3 characters that I am curious where you think they are and if you think we will see them again.
Shoot.
Okay. The first one is the one that I would guess we won't see again, but Quaithe.
Wait, who is that?
She is the lady that was in Karth.
Oh yeah, okay. She's the one who gave her the whole.
Yeah.
No, we won't see her again.
Okay. What about Jaqen? Was it Hargan? I don't know his last name.
Jaqen Hikar or whatever it was. The faceless dude.
Yep.
I don't think we see him again. There's a chance, but a small chance. But I just don't think. Like
he's my Gendry pick for this season. I'm picking him to make a comeback. It'd be fun at the very least, but I mean, if he never comes back, there's really no need for it.
To go into that, I would say, in all likelihood, we would more likely get Arya wearing his face than we would get him as an actual person.
Ooh, I like that. That's a good theory. I like that. I can get behind that. My third person, and the person that has me, I still say this is who I want Jon Snow to end up with. Mira Reed.
Yeah, I don't see her coming back.
I felt like they really didn't. They did her kind of shitty, like how they had her exit. I didn't like her exit at all from at least from the last time we saw her. I
don't even remember where the hell she went, but
she just went back to take care of business, and like I can't remember who she was talking to, but I think it was Bran. She's like, my fucking brother died to save your ass, and now you're just so far up your own ass and you don't care. And Bran's just like, well, I got shit to do. And she just left in a huff, basically. And it felt shitty because they were on, this really long adventure of sorts together. Lots of sacrifices were made, and Bran did not seem very grateful to her. It was weird.
Well, Bran doesn't show fucking emotions anymore because he probably really doesn't have them. So, like, her not understanding that as it happened was kind of. But I think, there's one of the beliefs was that Lyanna had twins.
Right, and Mira had the fucking hair like Jon Snow.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so if they run with that, we'll see her again. But if they,
I
again,
would
with
like
only
that.
5 episodes, I mean, how much more fucking drama can they throw into fucking...
Well, all right. So here's a question for you, and this isn't about what they'll do. It's about what you would prefer. Would you prefer the battle to be over at the penultimate episode, and then the final episode be about what's happened since then to, like they've moved ahead of time and you see where everybody's at type thing? Or do you want the final episode to really be like the final battle without really giving us too much of a look in what happens later?
Well, I mean, think about it like this, right? If we've got episode 1 out of the way, we know episode 2 basically is going to take us to the battle for Winterfell. And I know when What's His Nuts was doing, Kit Harington was doing press for the week that he was on Saturday Night Live recently. He said the Battle of Winterfell was going to be the weekend of the 26th, which would put that at episode 3.
Okay.
So that means, barring a whole bunch of changes going on between episode 3 and episode 6, you have all the shit left between the people in the north and what's going to go on with Cersei, which is probably also going to be another battle in, say, like episode 5.
Clegane Bowl.
Yeah, that kind of shit. So between episode 4 and episode 5, you have to take care of that shit, which hopefully leaves us with episode 6 to wrap up all the fucking plot threads to kind of make everybody as happy as they can be from whatever decisions are made in regards to all of the characters.
That timeline makes a lot of sense, and honestly, that considering that we're only getting 6 episodes, I would be I'd be as satisfied as I can be, given that I don't have a choice in the number of episodes left. So, given the number of episodes, that makes the most sense for a timeline.
I mean, and I know, like they said, that the whole reason that all the rest of them are going to be different lengths was because they didn't want to just break something up at like an hour or break something up at 2 hours. So each one is, I think there's a couple that are like an hour and a half. There's a couple that are 2 hours, and there's like maybe another one that's like an hour. So I mean, I would assume that would make sense relatively from what we still have coming. But who the fuck knows? Like I would have expected somebody to die this episode, considering how many characters we have. And,
Ned died, man.
well, we didn't see him before this episode, really.
I'm still I'm happy that they're not cutting these episodes up, but let's be real here for a moment. I can't be the only person shocked that HBO wasn't like, nope, cut those episodes so we can get as many episodes as possible to get people on the hook for at least one more month of subscription with us. I'm a little surprised in today's age.
Well, I think part of it, what it boils down to, is what do they have to replace it with?
Chernobyl.
But what I'm saying is, like, Chernobyl got made while Game of Thrones' budget was going. Until Game of Thrones wraps up, they don't have all that money to release to potentially buy. I mean, they could go big again, but they could potentially make 2 to 3 series, with the same amount of that they were spending per episode for this series.
Yeah, and I really hope they eventually do The Stand. That's all I want from you, HBO. Like, this is what I want moving forward. Just give me a 10-episode miniseries of The Stand, please. That's I've been asking for that for like 20-some years now, and I'm still going to keep asking for it until it happens or I die. So I'll probably die beforehand. So when I die, Chris, please carry on the tradition of this for me.
Okay, I will do my best.
Let's see, I'm looking. Alright. Since I'm going to probably ask this every week until we potentially get an answer. Also, we did not see Melisandre yet.
Yeah, I mean, so like when you threw that in the blog, like what question do you want answered? I mean, we've had a lot of shit throughout the series answered, but I don't think we've really had any kind of resolution on the whole Lord of Light thing.
Which
and the Prince Who Was Promised, because there's so many people that it could be potentially, which is what has been a lot of the speculation over the years. But I mean, the whole reason that she brought John back was because she thought he was this dude. And then we find out afterwards that she's completely fallible and she's been wrong before. So, I would expect that, like, if they're going to wrap it up, they're going to bring her back as a character to at least explain how they wrap it up, or they could just fucking ignore that whole plot line from this point on, and we never get anything else with it.
I would bet that we're going to see her again, and we're going to get an explanation, and we're going to get into Azor Ahai. And so my question, and it'll be the same question I ask you every week until we get an answer. Right now, if you had to bet $100, who would you put the $100 on to be Azor Ahai?
I'll go with the safe pick, and I'm just going to pick John.
Fair enough.
Because he really is the only one who's focusing on, humanity as a whole, rather than just me being in charge of everybody else.
I'm going to go with the last thing that I read that I found remotely compelling, and that was the Hound.
Oh, you know what? Okay. Yeah, I can see that too, because didn't Thoros give him the fucking flaming sword?
Yes. But then like, is there more than one? Because now Beric has it again, right?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I'm pretty sure all those fuckers, but...
I mean, either way, I think, I don't know, the Hound makes so much sense, plus the fact that he was burned, kind of, I don't know, there's so many fucking theories, as you know, but I don't know, I want the Hound to mean more.
The only question becomes, like, where does the whole Prince thing come into it then?
I don't know, because, once again, now that I'm paying attention to the earlier episodes, like, it sounds like House Clegane was just dicks for a long time.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, like, with the Hound has consistently been in my top favorite characters, like, since the beginning. For me, there's this hope that there's something more for him down the road other than Clegane Bowl. Like, if I had the option between Clegane Bowl and Hound being Azor Ahai, that's a really tough one for me to say which one I'd prefer.
Clegane Bowl. Clegane Bowl, definitely. Because not only is Clegane Bowl going to be probably the most awesome single one-on-one combat we get in the series, hopefully, but it's also like the thing that would just make him the happiest.
Yeah, I can see that, and I mean, fuck, man, I love the Mountain. I don't know if you saw, but he just recently came out and admitted he used PEDs while weightlifting. Big surprise. I'm not shaming him. I would do the same thing if I was doing weightlifting, but I don't know why this is still news today. But it was news. Alright, I didn't read anybody's responses on the blog yet because I like coming in with a fresh mind when I read it and comment on it. But, you alluded to it. Is Melisandre, like, the thing that you're, like, the question you're looking for the most? Or what is it that you're hoping to get answered next episode?
Well, like, again, I think the biggest one that I had coming from this episode was now, like, what's going to be going on with Bronn. Is he going to actually kill or try to kill one of the brothers, or is he not? Is what's going to mean more to him, friendship or money? And the next one would have been Clegane Bowl, but since people asked about both of those things, I went with Melisandre and Azor Ahai.
All right, so what you're telling me is that people basically taken every kind of response that I have, so I'm going to have to make some shit up. That'll be fun, at least, and I appreciate the fact that you took the time to write something different, because I get sick of responses when everybody just says the same fucking thing. I'm like, fuck, man, just make something up. Lie. I don't care. I did the same thing for the favorite scene, because
people were like, oh, with Bran or oh, with Lyanna Mormont. I was like, well, since everybody's picking those, I'm like, let's give Euron his fucking props because he finally got himself some queen ass, and
Yeah.
I could tell that Cersei wasn't like into it, but I don't think she planned to enjoy it as much as she did.
Yeah, she had that. I don't know. I don't want to even say the word smirk, but she had that look on her face of she is. She has really done some interesting things. It's fun. When if anybody does go back and rewatch the series, she's legitimately one of the most interesting people to follow. If you had to focus on just a couple of characters, she is one of the most fascinating characters to follow.
Lena
Their
Headey
whole
is
story.
such a fucking awesome actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've liked her in almost every single thing I've ever seen her in. I mean, she can play weird, she can play funny. Like, Cersei is such like a fucking evil character, and yet, like you said, she's interesting too, so we don't just automatically fucking write her out of everything, so.
Also, I didn't mention this before, but when we were talking about the scene with Bronn, I also really laughed when the girls are just like talking about the guy who like got burned, and Bronn's like, I actually took a shot at a dragon.
I'm the person who's come the closest to killing a dragon that you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
So anyways, this guy had his burns. And
that was really fucking funny to me. So yeah, I don't know how much humor we're gonna get moving forward. So I was happy that they gave us quite a few things to laugh at in this particular episode, and I appreciated that.
yeah.
So I don't know. Do you have any other questions or thoughts before we wrap this up?
It was a good episode. It, like, a lot of people look at Game of Thrones and they're always like, oh, where's the action? Where's the big shit going on? But I think the episodes like this, where it's just character drama, will really make it a good show compared to, like, how many shows can half-ass or even fully ass action and then, just kind of give you okay characters, okay dialogue. This show gives you great characters and great dialogue, so then when you get pretty cool action to go along with that in context, you're like, wow, this is actually has everything.
What I liked, and we got when you were talking about the timeline of the following 5 episodes, I was sitting here thinking, that's something that separates this show from so many, and like, when American Horror Story's on, it's one of my biggest fucking gripes is that the timelines rarely fucking play out to a point that's satisfactory as a viewer, versus Game of Thrones tends to do the polar opposite and gives us a reasonable timeline, and I really appreciate that as a fan.
I mean, reasonable is, it depends on how you're talking about it, because, I mean, look, it took, like, almost an entire season to go across half the country, with some characters, and then, Gendry makes it from the fucking way up above the wall back down to fucking Dany, and back in, 15 minutes in one episode, so.
Magic, my friend.
Yes.
Magic.
But, it's nice to see that they had, 2 people with a clear, concise view of what they wanted. And they weren't afraid to move around with, the number of episodes required to tell a story. Rather than, so many shows where they constrain themselves, well, we did 22 episodes last season, we're going to have to do 22 episodes this season. So how much fucking filler do we need to tell the actual story that we're going to tell?
I have at least one final question. Is there any chance whatsoever in your mind that by the end of this, Daenerys just goes into business for herself?
What do you mean?
What I mean is that no matter what people want, she'll ignore it and just be like, I'm taking the fucking Iron Throne. I don't care. All these people that I've met, either you're loyal to me or you're not loyal. Either way, I'm taking the throne because I got dragons. Do you think she'll just go into business for herself no matter how bad it leaves the landscape?
I think
because
if she chooses to do that, she's not going to survive. And I think a lot of what would determine if she does that, is going to be how John approaches her with the information that he has, or how she gets that information.
That's actually really something I'm really looking forward to, is her reaction, because, as you know, I get sick and tired of Dany at times, but overall, I mean, they've done a hell of a job crafting her character, and you could see it go either. At least I can see it go either way here, and
yeah,
that excites me.
She's done, and she's honestly believes, she's done some great things for the people, the common people. She's looked out for her interests. She's freed slaves. She's the breaker of chains, all that shit. But at the same time, since her husband died, she's had no one to really tell her no.
And when they have Jorah or Barristan, like, she's just bitched them out.
Or even Tyrion, she's ignored them. So at the same time, though, I like, with them investing in this relationship between her and John, I mean, we would have to see like at the same time, would John be like, "Hey, I'm the rightful king. I'm the fucking pope now," or would he be like, "I have to tell you this because I don't really care about being the king. I don't, as long as I could keep some of that sweet Wincest." But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it would be depending upon how she gets the information, and what kind of setting she gets the information. But at the same time, like, as much as all these people follow her, like, if she fucking goes complete despot, like, I don't see a lot of people going along for the ride, just being, like, "Hey, we followed you when you were like Dany, now you're turning into Cersei. You still want us to follow you," kind of shit.
And then the question has to be asked, does it even matter if she has 2 fucking dragons after, if the fucking whites and everybody, Winter gets defeated and she still has 2 dragons, does it really matter?
Maybe. I mean, like, Cersei does. If Cersei gets her fucking elephants, who knows?
The thing for me, I was sitting there thinking, like, I wish she'd gotten her elephants, because I was like, elephants would have been great to help feed the dragons. Just looking out for the dragons, that's all. Alright, I think we have done this, we've done a longer podcast than the episode, because we are over analytical assholes.
Who like to hear ourselves talk, yeah.
Yeah, we think we're important. We're gas bags. So, what I will say to everybody listening is go to 9deuce.com and 9deuce.com/blogs, and you'll see, what various other people, another person named Chris. We are now dealing with multiple Chris's on the same blog.
The world's
not confusing
explode.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
only thing would be weirder if we had 2 Chris's and 2 Kents.
Yeah, that would be fucking... I don't know any other Kent. Well, no, I think... Well, my father's name was Kent. He's dead. And I had a cousin named Kent. He's dead. So I think I'm the last remaining Kent that I know of.
Okay, well, we had 1 Eric. Maybe we can get 2 Erics next time.
That's... I don't need another Eric in my life. Although... Technically, I have another Eric. I had the Eric that wrote the MCU.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we had Eric S. We could get Eric B to join in, and then.
Oh God, yeah, that'd be interesting. With that being said, thank you guys for listening. We will be back next week. I plan on just posting these podcasts early Sunday morning. That way, there's no football going on. There's really not much going on, so. Give it a listen if you want. For Chris, this is Kent, and we are signing off. Thank you, and have a good day.
Yep. Oh, one question, Kent.
Oh, yeah?
What do you think the odds are that they make an ending that makes everybody happy?
0.
Okay, yeah, good. We're on the same
there's nothing that makes everybody happy anymore. Like, you could have, like, the most beautiful thing in the world just like presented to everybody in the world, and somebody would still somehow find fault with it. I would say that there is There's a 60% chance that they have an ending that makes 80% of the fans happy.
Oh, I'm just hoping between this and then Avengers next week, I have a couple things to make me happy.
Yeah, you selfish bastard. I mean, it's all about you.
It is.
No, I hope Avengers is really good too, though. I really do. Not that I'm going to get to see it until it hits video, most likely, but I'm hoping for good things.
All right, good night, Internet.
Good night.